I really wrestled with Yah this week. I did not want to have to share the topic that I'm going to talk about. I just would rather pretend that everything's fine. How easy life is when we just skate through. And yet Yah brings us to points where we have rapids or shocking events, maybe to get our attention or maybe to draw us closer to him. I look at this picture, not seeing the whole screen. I don't know what's in the background. I don't know what's coming at me, but I know that his promises are true and that he will prove himself. So as I walk along Yah's path, sometimes it seems very obscure. Yeah, I want to walk authentically with him, just as it is. Yah has brought me through the fire. And in that fire, he proved himself, his words, his promises, who he is. And he also proved in me my faith and who I am, my character. Job 23 verse 10 reads, "Yet he knows the way I take. When he has tested me, I'll come out like gold." That process continues day by day. It's not a one-time event being in that fire. Life is tough, and as we continue the journey, there's stuff that has to burn out of me every day. And who knows what shape or form I'll take. And yet Yah has made me a useful instrument. As I use my skills to aim at his ways perfectly, who knows who else will be inspired to also aim well. After all, it's all for his glory. It really has nothing to do with me. It's talking about his greatness, his praise, for he is truly worthy. So I'm going to offer grief recovery as my topic. This is honestly a very broad topic and a difficult one, yet at the same time, one I have seen Yah's sovereignty showcased brilliantly. In my brokenness, I hope his glory is truly displayed. I offer no answers, simply helps I have gratefully received. You may find yourself or someone close to you in a tragic situation. As a culture, we often have no tools in our buckets. We kind of expect those hurting to hide in a corner and just get better on their own, offering comfort foods or casseroles, or expecting medications to numb the pain. What if we were raised with training to help our fellow humans? Emotional trauma should be recognized with its need of help right away. It is truly a 911 situation. We have first aid training for physical injuries. If your arm was severed in front of me, I would immediately apply pressure, call 911, and take steps of saving the limb. But for grief, we have little to offer. And honestly, sometimes someone's presence or acknowledgement of our pain is the only helpful thing I could even offer. Thankfully, Yah Almighty does have the real help in his promises. Psalms 147 verse 3 reads, "He healeth the broken in heart and bindeth up their wounds." Psalms 34 verses 18 through 19 read, "They, the righteous, cried out, and Yah heeds, and from all their troubles he rescues them. Yah is close to the brokenhearted, and those crushed in spirit he saves. Yah alone has been my salvation." Isaiah 43 verse 2 reads, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior." Psalms 56 verse 8 reads, "You have counted my wanderings. You put my tears into your bottle. Are they not in your book?" How cool is it? Yah has significance in your tears to write them in a book, to keep record himself. If he is that close to your cheek to collect those tears, what an opportunity to tell him all of your hurt, sadness, every detail of any situation. He is right there. If all you can do is whisper. His presence is so close. I can only encourage you that is an amazing benefit. Express all, just as King David did. Yah made you with all your emotions. He delighted in David and called him a man after Yah's own heart. If you're stuck, cry out the Psalms. Go outside and yell it all out. Express it as however you can. When we don't and we stuff our emotions or ignore the healing process, often we experience physical health issues, so let it out. Yah is not surprised by any of it anyway. King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 7 verses 1 through 4 tells us, "A good name is better than perfumed oil, and the day of death better than the day of birth. Better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, for all are destined to be mourned. The living should lay this to heart. Grief is better than laughter, for sadness can improve a person. The thoughts of the wise are in the house of the mourning." In grieving, I do not have energy to pretend or make the situation seem better. I could only be honest and sit with my pain. Yet as I was crushed, Yah allowed his glory to shine forth. His strength showed up. His words of truth were proclaimed. Isaiah 40 verse 11 reads, "He feeds his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs with his arms and carries them in his bosom, gently leading those who are with young." I love the promise of this verse, and I often cried out for his gentle leading as I have young yet. I would highly recommend this book, The Grief Recovery Handbook, which deals with any sort of loss. Trauma is a popular word in our culture today. Really, this book deals with any major change in life and offers practical helps. I took this class at my church, and at the time this was the grief class offered in a variety of churches or even funeral homes. They have since been using GriefShare, and that may be also just as helpful, but I personally found this book to be very beneficial. I was able to facilitate a class after I took this class. Then Yah shut that door, as I could have been stuck there or drained, but he soon after called me into Torah, so I had a whole new topic to dive into studying. So let's look at some practical helps. First of all, be aware. When you're trying to come alongside someone and help them with their grief, the book Boundaries by Dr. Cloud is very helpful in just kind of preserving your own energy and not getting sucked into the whirlwind that can be the issue of grief. It's often helpful to get sunshine for 20 minutes. It's good to boost our vitamin D levels. A brisk walk for 20 minutes. Eat well, nutritionally well. Rest well. Thankfully, keeping Shabbat and Yah's festivals definitely help in that area. Help someone in person. This is scientifically proven to help your brain when you practically help someone person to person in something that they're in need of. Or talk to a person in person. We're so reliant on technology today that it's hard to even meet a friend for coffee sometimes. So whether it is a session with a counselor or just meeting for coffee, it's so good for your brain to talk to someone in person. Learn a new skill, that gets our brain going. Or just enjoy a hobby. Be understanding towards yourself, because grief can absolutely be exhausting. It definitely affects both the body and the brain. So be more cautious driving. Regular tasks can seem more exhausting. Conversations can seem like way too much work. We may feel we're running against a band like this illustration, getting nowhere, spinning our wheels, just digging deeper in the mud. Yet Yah alone has promises in his words. Psalms 38 verses 9 through 10 read, "I am faint and exceedingly crushed. I roar from the groaning of my heart. Yah, before you is all my yearning. My sighing is not concealed for you." I thought this picture tells it all. I have to rely on Yah to cut each strap that binds me down, and what a relief to be free, to be released to praise him. I want to clearly emphasize that grief has no timelines. There's no stages. The original author, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, in 1969, who first authored the stages, were for terminally ill patients in accepting their own death. Helpful or not, it has since been applied to grief and grieving, but it was not originally intended to be applied to the living. Often grief is more like waves. Some days it's like I'm standing in shallow water, the wave barely lapping against my ankles, while other days it's a tsunami and it seems to knock me off my feet and slam me against a rocky cliff. Each loss is individual and each person grieving is also unique. I believe it's most helpful to acknowledge your loss, grief, or event as 100% yours and not comparable. Even when loss events seem similar, my event is still 100% mine, and often the depth of grief is dependent on the level of the depth of relationship or the love for that person. Time alone does not heal, but dealing with or recognizing the value of grieving the loss of that person is helpful. Although I will continue to carry the loss of my son and may still be surprised at how it affects me day by day, I still am able to live fully as Yah empowers me to live. Thankfully, as seen in this picture, it makes me think of Psalms 91 verse 4. With his pinion he will cover you, and beneath his wings you will be protected. Or Psalms 5 verses 12 through 13. But all who take refuge in you will rejoice. They will sing joyously forever. You will shelter them, and those who love your name will exult in you. When you will bless the righteous, you will envelope him like a shield. The biblical example of Abraham mourning for Sarah in Jubilees 19. Verse 2 tells us the days of the life of Sarah were accomplished. Abraham mourned for her and then buried her in a cave, which he paid 400 pieces of silver. In verse 3, Abraham was patient and not disturbed. Verse 9 tells us this was the 10th trial that Abraham was tried and he was found faithful. And verse 11 is recorded on the heavenly tables that Abraham was a friend of Yah. Psalms 51 verses 17 through 19 read, Yah, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. For you do not desire a sacrifice, else I would give it. A burnt offering you do not want. The sacrifices Yah desires are a broken spirit, a heart broken and humbled you will not despise. So may Yah be your comfort as you navigate your own journey of grief or as you come shoulder to shoulder with others. As we navigate life, may we only rely on his words of promise. Being wise to expect times of rocky rapids or surprising events, yet knowing he himself is the source of all help, of all victory, empowering us as his people to live fully day by day. I hope his greatness and praise is displayed in his pulling me through my impossible situation. It may not be pretty, but he has proven himself that his promises are true. I'm still kicking, which is way better than the alternative.